So this is what everybody's talking about. Supreme Court signals it's ready to limit abortion at historic arguments. So this is the thing that was made possible because instead of running Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump, who would have beat him handily, they ran Hillary Clinton, who lost to him. She still won the popular vote, but she did lose the election because that's the way we do elections here. And ironically, she didn't call for changing the way we do elections. Isn't that interesting? If you would lose and you were the popular vote getter, you'd put up a big stink about the Electoral College system. They don't. They don't do that. Isn't that weird? Even though the Electoral College was instituted supposedly to stop someone like Donald Trump. So now people are scapegoating because Donald Trump got to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices, and now it's swung wildly to conservative Supreme Court. And now people, because of this, because they look like they're getting ready to overturn Roe v. Wade, or they're going to dismantle it in a lot of ways, people are now scapegoating. So, of course, here's Joyanne Reid, the biggest scapegoat bully. She says, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you tried to tell folks in 2016 that the presidential election was about the courts and the integrity of the presidency, not whether you wanted to be personal homies with Hillary or thought it would be fun to have a non-politician in the White House. Hey, raise your hand if you're a shield for the establishment who parrots whatever you're told as soon as you are told to say it. There you go. Raise your hand if you lied and said your Twitter got hacked after your homophobic tweets got exposed. Hey, raise your hand if you're a vocal anti-vax conspiracy theorist when Trump was pushing it and now it's Biden's president. You can't believe anyone is hesitant on that vaccine. Raise your hand. That would be Joyanne Reid, all of those. That would be Joyanne Reid. I like people say to her, hey, raise your hand if you said in 2014 that Ruth Bader Ginsburg should step down and be replaced. Raise your hand if you said that the do-nothing Dems should have pushed harder to confirm Merrick Garland. Hey, raise your hand if this is because of the hubris Hillary and the Democrat establishment, Democrats made their bed. Hey, raise your hand if voting for someone who not only oversaw the destruction of Libya, but then laughed about it, a country where there is actual open slave markets. Raise your hand if you could never vote for that scum. Hey, raise your hand if you know that Hillary Clinton appointed Tim Kaine to be her vice president and he was anti-abortion. And you want to hear, guess who else was anti-abortion? Guess who else was looking
I'm running out of hands, Jimmy. I'm running out of hands.
Guess who else was looking for a legal way to restrict abortion before the election? Here we go.
I am where I have been, which is that, if there is a way to structure some kind of constitutional restrictions that take into account the life of the mother and her health, then I'm open to that. But I have yet to see the Republicans willing to actually do that. And that would be an area where if they included health, you could see constitutional action.
I don't know if you caught that, but she just said she would look for a way to constitutionally restrict your rights to abortion. That's what she just said. And by the way, her running mate, Tim Kaine, the ironic thing is he's against abortion. You know why? Because he's pregnant. I don't know if you can tell by that picture. He was pregnant. That's why. It was a bad look. So there's Hillary Clinton.
I have been.
There's Hillary Clinton saying that she is super open to looking for a way to restrict abortion access. Long as it's constitutional. What?
Can I hear it again?
You want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is that, if there is a way to structure some kind of constitutional restrictions that take into account the life of the mother and her health, then I'm open to that. But I have yet to see the Republicans willing to actually do that. And that would be an area where if they included health, you could see constitutional action.
So Max, were you aware she said that? Max, were you aware she said that?
There were a number of... Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Can you... I actually hadn't seen that clip, but there were statements throughout the 90s by both Bill and Hillary about, abortion being a terrible choice and how it's an awful thing to do. they were always kind of riding the fence on abortion while catering to the core constituency of the Democrats, who are very pro-choice. So I'm not surprised that she would say a thing like that.
There it is. There it is. So I don't even think people knew what they were voting for.
And then she picked Tim Kaine, as you pointed out, when she ran. And it's like, what does Tim Kaine bring to the table? Like, that guy has the charisma of drying paint. I mean, the best thing they could do, they got him up to like play harmonica. Remember, he would play harmonica, and he sucked. He sucked. It was like John Popper on crack. No, probably John Popper on crack would be pretty good. It was really bad. But they brought him in partly because he was a right-wing Democrat who was anti-abortion. He would say, I'm anti-abortion in a personal sense as a Catholic. And they thought it would win Catholic swing voters in Ohio. And where did it get them? It got them nowhere. And many people who were already disgusted with Hillary's warmongering, her imperialism, her neoliberalism, they wound up casting protest votes with Jill Stein. It wasn't like they were just duped by Susan Sarandon. It was a conscious protest vote. It's like,
I don't know. Susan Sarandon is very persuasive, Max. Don't cut her short. I think I think I've said it many times. I think she's the kingmaker in American politics, and I don't know why people don't suck up to her more instead of insulting her. If she has that much power, why wouldn't you be nicer to her? It's because she doesn't.
Wasn't she the gatekeeper in Ghostbusters?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, so she was pretty persuasive in Ghostbusters. So maybe, I'll just throw aside all rational critical thinking and just do whatever Susan Sarandon says.
That's what I do. Now here's Joe Biden at the debates, and he made a promise that on day one, he would make sure abortion was codified into law. Well, let's listen to what he says.
I would send immediately to the desk of the United States Congress when I'm elected president, if I'm elected president, a codification of Roe v. Wade amended by Casey.
There, I'll play it again. I don't know if you missed it.
I would send immediately to the desk of the United States Congress when I'm elected president, if I'm elected president, a codification of Roe v. Wade amended by Casey.
He didn't do that. They didn't do that. The Democrats, I'm going to show you later in this segment, could have done a million things. They're not doing anything because they like this issue. So here, look, the Supreme Court signals it's ready to limit abortion at historical argument. By the way, that dome looks awfully phallic. That's all I'm saying. I was going to say it looks awfully phallic. The Supreme Court on Wednesday seemed ready to uphold a Mississippi law that bars abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, a move that would significantly curtail the right to abortion in the United States. When Visa to Ireland becomes the most Googled search, you're in trouble. Anyway, here we go. The law in question directly contradicts what has been the central holding of Roe v. Wade. It's the 1973 decision that established the constitutional right to abortion and said that states cannot ban the procedure before fetal viability, which occurs around 24 weeks of pregnancy. After nearly 2 hours of often heated oral arguments, the Supreme Court's 6 conservative justices appeared willing to undermine the nearly 50-year-old precedent, but they seem divided on whether the court should weaken the viability standard or overturn Roe entirely. There you go. The 3 liberal justices vigorously defended Roe and questioned Mississippi's arguments for doing away with the precedent. Well, Mississippi is known as the hospitality state. And if you're going to be barefoot and pregnant, at least the South has milder weather, right? Then again, the chiggers burrow into the soles of your feet. So if you try to run away, vagrancy is illegal. And Mississippi does have the highest poverty rate in the country. Also, killing your servant is not illegal there. So watch out, ladies. Okay. Here we go. This is when Joe Biden voted to let states overturn Roe. What? Huh? It was a new era in Washington in 1981, and abortion right activists were terrified. When an anti-abortion president, Ronald Reagan, in power and Republicans controlling the Senate for the first time in decades, social conservatives pushed for a constitutional amendment to allow individual states to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court ruling that had made abortion legal nationwide several years earlier. The amendment, which the National Abortion Rights Action League called the most devastating attack yet on the abortion rights, cleared a key hurdle in the Senate Judiciary Committee in March 1982. Support came not only from Republicans, but from a 39-year-old second-term Democrat, Joseph R. Biden Jr. I'm probably a victim or a product, however you want to phrase it, of my background, Mr. Biden, a Roman Catholic, said at the time. The decision, he said, was the single most difficult vote I've cast as a U.S. senator. The bill never made it to the full Senate, and when it came back up the following year, Mr. Biden voted against it. His back and forth over abortion would become a hallmark of his political career. Hey, come see one of our live stand-up shows December 10th or 17th or New Year's Eve at the Two Roads Theater in Studio City, California. See you there. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets.